with.
So, I'm sorry, where are you? Assistant?
Yes. Okay, so there will be some distractions.
There are always some distractions.
All right, let's sink into that. Always start with a little bit of meditation to get grounded and to get uncomfortable, okay? If you don't meditate daily, then this part of the process will be a little bit uncomfortable, as it should be. Meditation is not about clearing your mind. Meditation is not about clearing your thoughts. Meditation is not even about focus. It's about being uncomfortable and tolerating it. So that's what we're going to do first. And I should introduce myself a bit.
Yes, please.
I am Bruchy Moskovics. I'm a psychotherapist and psychodramatist based in Brooklyn, expanding more globally now. So I've done some work in London, doing some work here in Israel now, with the hopes of pursuing my PhD here in Israel. Some of my interests include experiential therapies, such as this. I'm also training in psychedelic assisted therapy. It's ketamine and psilocybin, all that beautiful medicine.
What is that?
Those are properties, things that we commonly think of as LSD, that we have learned actually have very, very positive effects in both treating depression, which is treatment resistant, and trauma.
Yes.
Very powerful that they are discovering now quick, they have to be done under
Yeah, it has to be
What's
done.
drug?
strong.
Yeah, psychedelics.
It's a psychedelic.
Yeah, we can talk more about that. Hello.
So fascinating.
So that's another thing.
It's something new and big and
Yes.
really helpful because, especially for your clients who've not been successful in any other kind of treatment.
Really?
Yeah,
Fascinating stuff. We can talk more about
and
it.
how the brain really helps the brain heal itself. But again,
Yeah.
it's really, really
Yes. So that's one of the things that I'm doing. It's definitely on the leading edge of trauma research. So I am, honored to be part of that wave. And as well in my practice in Brooklyn, I have a beautiful little golden doodle. So with him, we do animal-assisted therapy. He's not little; he's very big and very fluffy and very adorable. So that is part of my practice too. So you can say my practice is very diverse. It's not your typical, just talk therapy. There's a lot of movement. There is a lot of we incorporate a lot of the new research in what it takes to heal. So psychodrama is one of those modalities. Part of being here today is, once again, like I was telling Lena, to expand my network, to connect with practitioners outside of my bubble in Brooklyn, because this world is so much bigger, and my purpose in this world this time around extends far beyond the borders of New York. So here I am. Let us start with some meditation. Okay. For that, you can have your eyes open or closed. It's up to you. I will close them so I can go inward a little bit. I have my feet planted on the ground. So you see I'm not crossing my legs, not crossing my energy. I'm using the planted on the ground. And sometimes I'll have my hands down for grounding on my knees. And sometimes I'll have my hands up for see like this. So it's up to you. See what feels right for you in this moment. And one of the most important things that is supposed to happen when we meditate is our mind is supposed to wander. If your mind stops wandering, check your pulse. Okay? Your mind is actually supposed to wander. The cool thing is, in meditation, what we want to do is watch our mind wandering. That's the only difference. It is supposed to wander. Something cool that you can also do is label the sensation. Ugh, I feel uncomfortable. Oh, I feel annoyed. Oh, I feel sweaty. Oh, I'm feeling a judgment. Oh, I'm feeling a self-judgment. Just notice that. Now be quiet for a moment. Let your breath land as it may, natural breathing. And notice your wandering breath. As you're doing this, now start noticing your body as well. We've made friends with the wandering mind. We've welcomed it. We invite it to keep wandering as an indication that we are still alive. And now we notice the body. Let's scan from the top of the head. Notice your head, notice your face, your facial muscles. Maybe give a smile just to test it out. Still like notice your throat. Does your breath flow easily? Does it feel very locked? Notice. Notice your neck. You need a stretch. Notice your shoulders. Do it need some movement. Notice your chest, encasing your heart and lungs. Maybe give thanks to your heart for beating. Thanks to your lungs for doing what they're doing. Continuing to notice, of course, even while we're doing this, your mind is still supposed to wander. And we just tolerate it. So that you can take a quick detour back to your brain and notice your brain cells firing in brand new ways as they are experiencing this brand new feeling of tolerating discomfort in this way. Even though you've done it before, this is brand new. Notice your brain cells firing on this. And brain cells that are firing in this way, they're pretty happy. Like the air. So we go back down through the body. Your torso, belly, your back. Just notice what you're noticing. Going down through your hips and pelvic area. Notice what you're noticing. Down your thighs, your knees, calves, your feet, toes. Now with a deep breath in, sense all of the energy in your body rooting down to the core of Mother Earth, and exhale. And again with a deep inhale, notice the energy of Mother Earth, that grounding energy shoot up as you exhale through every cell in your body. And to keep doing deeper breaths as you notice sparks of red, and then orange, keep breathing deeply, yellow, cascading in and around you, green, light blue, keep breathing deeply. Then the deep blue of a night sky, washing all over you. And then welcoming colors of purple and white. As I'm saying these things, if you can envision it, just make it up. Make up purple, make up the colors. And as you envision or make up a rainbow washing all over, in and around you, let's do a couple of deep breaths in. And exhale. You want to exhale from the back of your throat like a lion. In. And a little more powerful in. And channeling the energy that just came up to you. In. And 3 more like this. In. And out. And exhale. Hold your breath on your exhale. And when you feel you need to, return to your normal breath for the final part of this meditation. And what we're going to do now, before we return to our active learning, is we're going to take our brains and put it into the theta brain wave. We all have the ability to do that. Very magical. Follow along with me. And And whatever I'm saying as a visualization, this is a technique to take your brainwave and alter it by pure will. If you can't see what I'm saying, make it up. Practice visualization, to practice making things up. I'm going to say random words and just picture it in your mind. Keep your eyes closed. When you picture it, raise your hand gently. Okay, ready? Picture a sandwich. Keep your eyes closed. Picture it in your mind. Good. Refresh. Picture a cow. Good. Refresh. Keep your eyes closed. Picture a rainbow. Good. Refresh. Picture a door. Refresh. Picture a child. Any child. Refresh. Picture an old grandparent, an ancestor. Good. Refresh. Picture a big burst of white light. Good. Refresh. Picture a burst of fire. Good. Refresh. So, for the most part, we know how to make up something if we can visualize it. And now let's do it to take us to a different brainwave. Let's do one deep breath in and a strong exhale. Beautiful. And now, picture the core, the energy of Earth coming up through a big burst of golden light, surrounding you and going in you at the same time. And this then becomes a big ball of light that is almost your own personal rocket ship that's going to take you on a journey. Picture this light going up and out at the same time. You become bigger and stronger. Your consciousness is expanding. Just notice that. Your consciousness is expanding up and out in this big, beautiful golden light. You go higher and higher and higher to what we understand as space. Seeing maybe stars and galaxies going higher and higher and higher. It gets really, really dark, and then you see a big burst of light. And there's beautiful light, layers of light. And then you come upon this big, beautiful, almost an atrium, golden light, and rose gold, maybe yellow gold. It's just gold all around. Keep going. If your mind is wandering, that's okay. It just means you're alive. Keep envisioning. Keep going higher and higher. Your consciousness is on a journey. And you pass through this golden plane, and you come through again, layers of white light, dark light, and then you find yourself almost in a jelly-like substance of rainbow colors. And then here you see shapes and sizes and colors of every single magnitude that you've ever envisioned before. Spirals, triangles, circles, every single dimension. And you go through that, and now you envision yourself going through a pink mist, a pink shower, showering your consciousness. This is the pink mist of compassion. Notice what that feels like, and then go through maybe a rectangular window, and then you find yourself in this theta brainwave state. Millions, billions, innumerable, sparkling diamonds, backlit by the most magnificent light you've ever seen. Envision this sparkling light. And in this place, let your consciousness dissolve, let your body dissolve. And just be in this space for a moment. Of course, even here, you might wonder, that's okay. Just envision the sparkling light, breathe it in, play with it, dance in it, knowing that right now your brain is, by your actions, in a different brainwave. A healthy brainwave, a healing brainwave. A wave that activates in you, in me, in us, the ability to be here on planet Earth and do magnificent healing work with ourselves and those who come to us for help. Knowing the beauty of the space, knowing that we have a direct channel to healing, to our ancestors who are healed in the past, and to those who will come after us. this light, you take our hands and rub them together. With a deep breath in. And when we exhale, place your hands on your eyes. And when you're ready, open your eyes and return. Magnificent. So this brainwave that we've just experienced, in one word, what did it feel like? If anyone wants to throw out.
I'm still on the jelly.
Oh, you stay there.
Yeah, I like that.
Those are the laws of the universe. They're very enticing. Okay, anyone else? The jelly-like place. Anyone else? Very centering, yes. Anyone else? A word that comes to mind, a thought, a feeling, a sensation.
I was checking my pulse with my mind. It was sort of funny.
Your body was very
Yeah, I
quiet.
had to check my pulse.
Yes. Did that happen to anyone else? You went into a different state, or maybe quiet, or floating almost? Yeah. What's your name? The green tie?
Dove.
No, what was that like for you?
I was confused a little.
Okay.
Because I was soaring in new waves of consciousness, but then I realized I'm supposed to be up there somewhere. So I was staying present, and I wasn't up there. And I realized what I'm supposed to do was it was supposed to shoot me up
Yes.
physically, not
Yes.
just in my consciousness. So then I went up there, and then I knew that there was something I could enjoy about all the diamonds and light and the shine there, but I wasn't sure what it was. I knew I wanted to get something out of it, and I couldn't grab enough. I felt just suffocated by it.
Okay, interesting, right? So this will leave everyone in a different place.
Yeah.
This is one of the techniques. Are people getting a recording of it?
We're recording it.
Okay, and they're getting
Yes,
access
we
to
will
it.
be sending them.
So this is something, look into it, do some research about it. I'm not going to share everything about everything, because especially it's being recorded, you can always go back to it. You can do a lot of your own research. In here, we're going to do experientially. And the rest, the research, you're going to read up on your own. Look into the theta brainwave and its healing properties. And with this meditation, do it with yourself a few times, and then have the confidence to take your clients up there. Especially when, who here does groups? Raise your hand. You do groups? Okay. Who works with couples? Good. With couples as well, this is magical. To bring a couple into a theta brainwave before starting a session is amazing. To end the session on a theta brainwave is fantastic. It's a very healing brainwave. It's an open brainwave. It's the brainwave right before we go to sleep. It's the brainwave during some dreaming. It is very healing. So we're all there now, which is really nice. And now let us dive into psychodrama. Stand up. And I'm going to learn a little bit about you. The questions I would have asked just by asking, we're going to do it by doing. So, get comfortable for a lot of movement. Yes. All right, so first things first, I want to learn a little bit about you all. We're going to do a spectrogram. So, this is the letter A. You all have Hebrew names?
Do we all have Hebrew names? Well, I think so.
Okay, we can do Aleph to Tav, or we can do A to Z. Let's do A to Z. A over here. Z is over here at the very corner of the room. Line yourselves up according to your names. First letter of you.
It's a lot at the end of the
Isn't that interesting? We learn a lot about, especially in groups, we learn a lot about a group when we see their names.
Oh, wait, I'll move down. Hold on.
This is
Let me
how-
move down. And wait a minute. Where is? Yeah. It's good. That was like an outlier over here, almost, right?
So I want to hear, tell me why you're standing where you're standing.
Why? Yeah,
Why's over here?
Why are you standing where you're standing? Hopefully that's just water. Why are you standing where you're standing?
Because you told us
Right,
to
so
stand.
tell me, I'm standing here because my name starts with A.
I'm standing here because my name starts with an L.
L, okay, so this is L and
I'm
this
the
is,
D.
oh, so you would be,
That's why he said yes.
yeah.
You see, there's.
So you're D, your name is Dove.
Dove.
Lena,
I'm Lena.
I'm for Miriam.
Miriam, Naomi, Rifki, Shira,
Tammy.
Tammy,
Yisrael.
Israel. Where would you be technically?
Yonason.
Yeah. Oh, look at
He's
these.
right where he should be.
Synchronicity.
And then Gershon, who was trying to get in, he's cheating. He should be. See, I bugged him.
Gershon, don't even think of taking the chair.
What am I doing?
It was saved.
Yeah,
You're
I saw you in
cheating.
my chair.
You stand here, because you're cheating.
Next to Lena?
Yeah, I know, it's scary.
Well, oh my.
No.
Because we
Oh,
don't,
this is
all
like-
right.
It's a little weird.
Now the next spectrogram. So you see, this is called a spectrogram in psychodrama. It's based on the word spectrum. So very often, if this can be used in a lot of ways, we're going to use it in a couple of ways right now. Instead of asking a client, asking an individual, a child, a couple, a group, how are you feeling today? I'd rather say, let's say this person is a person struggling with depression, right? Everyone come off the timeline, come off the spectrogram, and I will say, let's go with a feeling of joy. Here is zero joy, none whatsoever, zero joy, zero joy. What's here?
Zero joy.
Very good.
Joy.
Which would make here
Joy.
a ton of joy, like absolute joy.
100 joy.
Sparkle, okay?
I'm
So-
still kind of also in the sparkles. I want to share that.
Isn't it magnificent?
Like sparkles and jelly thing. I haven't landed.
We will talk more about it. Yeah, it's magnificent stuff. So let's look at the past. Today's Monday. Let's look from the weekend until now. Where would you put your level of joy? Be honest as much as you can.
Depends on the moment.
But go overall.
The middle.
Where, safety. From where?
From like the weekend, Shabbat-ish until now.
Notice that, is it
Monday.
I'm staying near Lena.
Gersha, if we were being honest, where would we be standing?
If I was being honest, it wouldn't be me.
Okay.
I'm pretty
Okay.
happy, actually.
You really have, yeah, okay.
Since Sunday? That's 2 days ago.
So now, did everyone share with someone?
Yeah, like I.
Did everyone
I have
share
a
with
very hard
someone?
time.
You didn't share with
Yeah.
anyone.
I'm not sure with anyone.
Why is that?
I just, my definite, I'm
Guess I'm
like,
alone on an island.
Who's next to turn around, look at, if everyone shared with everyone, do you want to share a sentence while you're standing where you're standing?
Sure, yesterday was a tinus, and obviously it's the same day, and
So,
Shabbos my guest didn't show up. So that,
Very
so
little.
it was a bit of a,
Oh, I'm on
it was a bit of a bummer, all the effort that went into that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's like, I know where I have to feel that.
Now, let's come off the timeline. Did you see how, if you're working with groups, again, you all know each other at least a little bit. This, when I run groups with people who have never met each other before, they come in to a group and we start right away with, we do meditation, little introduction, we start with warm-ups right away. People connect. Oh, what? I can connect. Let's do another one. How many children are in your family? Here would be, I come from a humongous family of 18 and 18.
We're talking
20
about
kids.
siblings or children? Okay,
Siblings. Family of origin.
Siblings, family one.
Family of origin, here is my family, 20 kids-ish. Many, okay? That's not my family. My sister-in-law's family, yes, not mine. Here is, I'm an only child. Place yourselves where you're still sitting.
Oh, they're right here.
You check in with the people next to you to see if you are in the accurate spot. You want one?
Yeah, what's your
She was out
number?
of the house.
She's married and she's a different dad.
And this is something that most people know, that there are some surviving
We're
sons.
an only child.
What?
People
Yeah,
here in the
but
group
that's-
know that there are some.
No.
No,
Everything's
okay. You're open to sharing that? Yeah, this is interesting, right? What came up now is one person asked the question, even from this simple exercise, are we talking about surviving children or original? Oh,
Oh.
so that means, cool, we have a theme of grief that could be processed if this was an ongoing group, or if this is an individual, or if this is a couple, right? Oh, suddenly something came up, I didn't even think to ask, but it's here.
Yeah, and you have miscarriages, got lots of things.
Yes, that too, yes.
I don't know about, definitely don't know about all those things. But I taught others of cuddle.
So here we
I can do
are,
it.
only children, one of two?
I don't
What's
have
your
to.
number?
Two?
I'm unusual.
Unusual?
Nobody's arguing. Nobody's arguing.
Nobody will argue. What's unusual?
Because I have one sister, but she grew up as an only child and I grew up as an only child.
Very like separate, kind of like
Yeah.
one, how many years apart?
20.
20. Anyone relates to that in any way?
And it's just the two of us. I mean, there might have been a miscarriage, but that would, like, my sister's father, we have different fathers,
Yes.
so that would have been
With,
on
with
them.
that side, yeah. Right, so again, a storyline emerges, right? And if this was group, if this was something that's impacting your life in some way or another, it would come up. So we have unusual, kind of only, but one of two, one of two,
Right.
3,
4.
4,
Five.
5,
Eight.
8, 8. Amazing.
Where are you, youngest?
3.
But you're in the wrong place.
Not where I'm supposed to be.
Yes, and I would be one behind you. I'd be in one of 9. Right. So, and also as a practitioner, again, here I'm in a training capacity, so it's a little bit different. As a practitioner, when you're doing psychodrama, sometimes with some questions, you do answer, right? Let's say I'll go, I'm one of 9. When we talk about light things, sometimes I will be part of the warm-up. Other times I stand aside. As you learn more about this, you'll gauge. But this basically is a spectrogram. Any question about the spectrogram before we move to the next thing? Question, spectrogram?
What are we trying to elicit?
Great question, right? Why are we doing this, right? Before I answer, what do you notice is happening? Why are we doing this?
Like an icebreaker?
Yeah, anyone can, what was that?
Like an icebreaker?
Icebreaker, yes, what else?
It helps create focus if people aren't sitting in their chairs.
Yes, people, right? You're all kind of a little bit more focused than if you were sitting and I was just talking, right?
Sometimes it's easier to communicate through nonverbal than through verbal.
Yes, that's a big one. Psychodrama says words only tell us as much as words can say, right? So we communicate non-verbally by moving, right? That's a big one. Think about it in the context of groups specifically. Why do we use this?
No, it connects the people in the group.
Yeah, it connects people quickly and at a rate that they're comfortable with. When you're sharing with a person, tell each other why you're standing where you're standing. Share as much as you want or as little as you want. It'll happen naturally, right? Another thing with groups is this kind of work allows you to see who's connecting with whom. Who somehow ends up standing next to each other all the time. Like that gives us some information. It's not a good thing, it's not a bad thing. It's more like, okay, where are the clusters in the group? Who's connecting, who's not connecting? The psychodrama word for this is tele. Tele is the interpersonal energy between people in a group. Okay, so, does this answer your question?
But basically, you're observing all the different nuances that come out of it.
Yes.
It's abstract. You don't know what's going to land.
Not yet. The other thing is for the brain. This allows me as a clinician to see your brain in a lot more relaxed environment, right? You're moving, your entire body is involved, rather than if we're sitting across from each other and I'm doing, let's say, an assessment, I'm asking you a lot of questions, you're in a different brain space than if you're flowing. And tell me how many kids, boom, come all the time, huh?
I would think it's like, you're just more of a real place. You're not thinking about right answers, you're just
Exactly.
doing
You're
it.
not in your head.
Yeah.
Your brain is in a
Yeah.
different state. You're moving. You're flowing. Okay, another warm-up, before I go to this one, another warm-up, we did a spectrogram. Another warm-up would be a locogram. Loco means location, right? So let's say for that one, if I wanted to ask a group or a person or a couple how they're feeling right now, I'll have a stack of cards or papers where I'll write, let's say, 5 feelings: mad, sad, glad, scared, shame. I'll put it on the floor, and instead of saying, how are you feeling, I'll say, walk over to the feeling on the floor and tell me the story of that feeling. Another way to use the floor is turn it into a clock. Okay, this is 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, hello, 9 o'clock. For a couple, this is great, right? Whenever we're ready. For a couple, this is great when you want to hear a little bit in the beginning about their differences, right? When is your favorite time to go to sleep? Wife will go somewhere, husband will go elsewhere. When do you wake up, right? And then the one partner will go somewhere and the other partner is going to say, really? That's when you wake up? No. Right? Maybe that's not the case, but that's how they see it in their minds, right? Using the clock is fantastic, even for children, right? Show me, walk around the clock and tell me what happens throughout the day, right? You have a child, a couple, even in a group. Tell us the story of your clock. of your day. What you're doing is you're getting the brain in a completely different state. You're taking the brain to clock mode rather than to, I just need to share, right? Very, very different. There's more warm-ups. We'll see if we have more time. We'll focus on it more. By raise of hand, who knows about the empty chair?
You talking about Gestalt?
Yeah?
Gestalt.
Only Lena?
No, you guys must know.
Yes.
Sure, it's Gestalt.
Yeah. Otherwise, we have to review it.
We're going to learn it now
And
in a fun way. So we have a few people who know it.
Sure.
Might ring a bell. Pretty simple technique. I love the empty chair. The empty chair can become anything and anyone. I've done sessions with an entirely empty chair. It's delicious. Then we're going to introduce 3 chairs, but we're going to start with the empty chair. Now the empty chair, very often you'll have a client in a room. Do you have another room?
But we have one chair.
Here.
Yeah, we have this one.
Another chair, okay. I can stand for a bit, but not understand.
No, we have a chair
We
here.
have chairs, we have a lot
You
of
have chairs?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so you'll have a client in the room talking about their mother, their father, their sister, session after session after session. If the same session is repeating more than twice in your office, that's a problem. Okay? Not the client's problem, it's my problem. Okay? A client is coming to therapy, paying money, taking time out of their day to create change and healing, and they trust me as a practitioner to guide.
I will say
Yeah.
that we do have clients who do just want to tell the same story over and are not interested in changing that.
Sure, that's for me personally, so I do strategic therapy.
And when we try to do that, I have, because I can do that, they are not interested. So there are those unusual individuals.
I do have a question about that. The layout of this is a clinic?
This is the thing.
Do people pay for sessions or
Yes.
may I ask the rates?
Depends on the.
Oh, everyone sets their own rate. And this is paid out of pocket or people, so it's out of pocket, not covered by insurance.
No.
And you say there are still some people who come in and say, I just want to be here and tell my story.
Over and over again. I have a particular client who does that. Every single time I go to a workshop, I always tell the presenter, and it's always comes back to some people just need to do that until they go.
Isn't it like a little like play therapy? Sometimes a kid will play
Yeah.
a game, they'll play out a certain thing again and again and again, until he feels okay about it.
It's exactly like that, and no matter what anytime I try to do anything else, they just get annoyed. And I will tell you that because I've hung in there, and it's pretty frustrating, it took a long time, that I actually do see signs of change. So it's not always like 100%.
Well, look, I'm gonna stick with
Just
the
to
modality.
bring-
Yeah, I mean,
Just to bring it like.
I have a client like that too, but it's
We
so,
all-
so rare. And he's been with years and
Yeah,
years.
they're not the usual clients.
And it's a little autistic. He's
Yeah.
a little autistic.
I
No
keep
matter
waiting
how
for
much you
something that will
try.
shake them up.
You know, you're saying the same story over and over
Right.
again. I've heard it, I've watched that same video, you showed it to me yesterday.
so with that, I
And
mean,
he hears it and goes right back.
And they don't want to,
Talk to
which
me.
is such a, but I just brought that up because
Yeah,
I
and
always
it's-
look for a solution and it's always the same. And so
we could go into it more, but it would take away from the
So we're
theme,
not going
the
to.
psychodrama, but there is more to talk about. The way that I practice therapy at this point is I use a lot of modalities, but it's very much strategic therapy. Right? Strategic therapy it's not CBT, let's just focus on skills, and it's not Freudian where we're going to sit and go back all the way to your mother and your father. Like, we're saying if your mother is relevant, again, we're going to talk about the chair in a second. We will bring her into a session, trust me. But if not, I don't need to. I'm saying strategic therapy is how do you want your life to get better and what's the track to get there. Sometimes it takes a couple of years, sometimes it takes a couple of months. I say, especially when it comes to children and families, I say I do long-term relationships, short-term therapy. I want to see your child and you as a family off the couch and doing life. When you need me, again, I'm here, right? So these techniques, especially the ones we're going to talk about right now, think about them in the context of the clients who are motivated to change, who actually want to get better. When the clients whom you can ask, well, why are you here in therapy? Yeah, it's a really important point to ponder. Why are you here? How do you want your life to change? How do you want things to get better? So then,
Why are you staying in the marriage?
That's
That's
true.
Christian's favorite question.
Yes.
Why are you staying in the marriage?
Yeah.
A question I ask, why are you staying, the same question, why do you keep living where you want to live if it makes you miserable? Why? And, it's,
So this chair
which is great.
can represent the place you're living. It can represent who's the client, the partner. You work a lot with couples?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this, can you see them individually or have you?
Sometimes, I see him first couple times together, and then I see him individually, and then as needed.
So for a couple, this could be a collective cheer, right? A couple that's fighting about culture. This could be culture. A couple that's fighting about religion. Religion is now on the chair. Fabulous. Let's start talking to religion. And then we're going to introduce role reversal. Give it a second. But this could be if you're working with a wife, this could be your husband. If you're working with a husband, this could be the wife. If you're working with a client who's having difficulty with her mother, this is now the mother. If you're working with a client who's having difficulty with her sibling who molested her when she was 11, boom, this is now the sibling. And instead of talking about it, we're going to talk to it, to him, to her, to them. Okay? So who has a client that we can demonstrate on? Who has a case that they think, ooh, I wonder what it would be like if I used the empty chair, and we're going to use that as the teaching.
Can I just add one thing
Yeah.
too that I found very effective? Also, younger self.
For
Right.
sure, that we're going to have the 3 chairs in a moment, but this
Okay.
could always represent yourself now, yourself in the future, yourself in the past, yourself in the womb. Like this is just
I haven't come back that far.
yes. What was that?
The womb is a little bit farther back than I've gone before.
Oh, but that
I've gone back there and beyond.
beyond that too, yeah. Don't get me started because that will become its own topic. But yeah,
It's very powerful.
yeah, ancestors like this I've done a cheer where this is God. Whatever God is to the person, he, she, it, the great white light, Hashem.
For bereavement.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Grief work and spirituality is beautiful. So and bereavement also, fresh bereavement, as a person's dying, after they've died.
It's fun to put God in a chair because we've done that before. And people, can I do that? Can I talk to God?
Yeah.
It's like they really. It's like you tell God how angry I can tell God how angry I am.
It's beautiful to see that happening.
Right, but
Because also the powerful thing that happens with a chair is so often, especially, did most of us grow up religious? If yes, raise your hand. Okay. Who came to religion or spirituality a little bit later? Raise your hand. Yes.
I'm still working on it.
Yeah, aren't we all? But very often when we are taught about God, or Hashem, whether it's from a young age or whether we learned about it, we're not always taught about the concept of listening to God. We're taught about talking to God, praying, davening, whatever that looks like, but listening to God, it's like, oh. But here on the chair, who's going to demonstrate? I feel like Gershon, come on. Come.
The one who said he wasn't in the mood for psychodrama.
Yeah, well, I guess I am now.
Sharing volunteers.
So we're going to do a demonstration.
Am I God?
Apparently.
Then I can live with psychodrama.
You can, in psychodrama, we do find the godliness in that. So for now, you can stand up for a moment. And we're going to do a mini demonstration, okay? Not even a case yet. But since we're talking about the concept of, let's say, inviting a person who is religious and who is spiritual and who God is a theme for them, right? And they're having questions. It doesn't make sense. Very often as therapists, we're like, okay, maybe I can find the right words, the right concept, something, and it'll spark in them. And it's like, let them talk to God himself. Am I wiser than God? No. No. So let's say, come here next to me. Put God in the chair. And in this context, in this frame, whatever you want to say in this moment. And while we're doing this, we're going to demonstrate 3 skills, okay? We're demonstrating the empty chair. We're going to demonstrate the concept of doubling. You know doubling? Anyone else knows doubling? Okay, doubling is really cool. You know a little bit? Yeah. Doubling, and then we're going to do role reversal. Doubling, and I'll tell it to you now because I'm going to ask you in the middle permission. Doubling is when I, as the practitioner, will go behind the person who is the protagonist, who is doing the scene, and I will, if I'm sensing or feeling that there's something going on that they're not saying, that's kind of hidden, I'm going to ask permission, may I double? And if the client says yes, I'm going to say the words that I think are there.
Okay, I know what you're saying.
Right? And I always say, if it's right, repeat it in your own words. And if I didn't get it right, say what is there. Right? And then there's going to be role reversal, which you're going to see in a moment. So, yeah, God is on the chair. Hello. What a gift. What a joy. And,
What would you like me to?
I say it could be very light, it could be deep, whatever. It's your colleagues.
Is it as the client or as himself?
Right now, it's up to you. That's why we're having fun. This is just, I keep reminders because I'm not the best with looking for the clocks. We have an hour now. Yeah. Up to you. Do you want to play as a client or do you want to play as yourself?
I'll play as myself.
Play as yourself. Okay. Right. You got Gershon here. What do you want to say to God in this moment?
You know, couldn't ask me a lot here, but okay, let me see. All right, God, I know you exist, but do you know I exist? I often wonder. I talk a lot, don't hear much. That's hard.
Reverse roles. Which means you now become God.
I like that better. And I'm over here, do I say it? Huh?
And now
Say it, come
God is here. We're demonstrating an individual. Okay? In a group, sometimes I will have Gershon pick someone to play God. We're demonstrating individual. Okay? So individual, you are relying a lot on your client's ability to envision. Okay? You want to test that. Like the exercise we did, see a monkey, see a car, you want to do that with clients to get their brains listening, moving, right? It's fun. It's good. If we need it. Our brain is like, okay, God is here. And you, as God, are hearing, right? You are now playing God. And you heard the question. What are you answering to?
Talk about vulnerability.
You can still switch and be a client.
No,
It's up to you.
I want to play this.
Yeah.
Give me the demonstration. Maybe I'll learn something. Help me. You know, I hear you, Gershon. You're just not doing enough. That's what you're not doing enough. If you did more, then I would listen.
Reverse roles. Now I want Gershon hear what God is saying to you, and close your eyes for a moment and hear. And with God specifically, we want to wonder, what version of God spoke to you now? Is it the God your parents painted for you? Is it the God you know to be true?
God of Yeshiva.
Ah,
Yeah, you've heard that one before. haven't you?
yeah. So well.
I deal with that a lot.
I don't know the chick. God of Yeshiva wears a very specific uniform, so sorry.
He wears black and white.
Yeah, if we. And by the way, quick pause. In psychodrama, we have a lot of props. A lot of props. I have a bag that you can punch. I have bats, soft bats,
You
hard
got one
bats.
with a rabbi?
We have. Don't have that yet.
Gotta get
Yeah.
Voodoo doll.
but- What was that?
Voodoo doll.
Yeah.
one. Thanks with some
Don't
cane
go there.
and a shotgun.
We have fake guns. We have, for alcoholism, we have bottles, and we have all kinds of props.
Talking to the right guy.
Right? So here, let's say, we would drape, let's say, a black and a white scarf on the chair to demonstrate that kind of God, right?
So there's a black chair and a white floor.
Two, right? We can use our imagination. So now, it sounds like that yeshiva God is over there. So why don't you reverse roles with yeshiva God? Reverse roles. So go sit. Are those durable?
Yeah.
We're gonna find out.
You could stand behind it too, yeah. You get okay.
Getting
So-
into Tishba mood now.
Yeah, I know, I'm feeling like.
And the reason, and also the reason why we ask specifically with God, which version is it, is because when it comes to a true essence of meeting God, it's pure. Do any of you use IFS?
A little bit.
Love IFS. So you know the 8 C's of IFS? Calm, clear, connected, courageous, confident. What are the other 2?
Curious.
Curious.
It's like the 7 dwarfs.
Yeah. It's
Clear. I have it on my confident.
confident, courageous. Yeah. I mean, those are the 8 C's. Look it up, right? That's really,
5 Ps.
yes, that too. What are the 5 P's?
I don't know. this
But
one.
general
Playful
piece.
is one.
Playful, piece of, I think, at
Peaceful.
peace, persistent. It's those are qualities that you find when a person really hears what I understand to be a helpful God. It's not a, oh, whatever, do whatever you want, hippie town. It's more supportive, protective, loving, ever presently loving. So that's why I ask what God is it, and a person will usually immediately have an answer. Like you knew, Yeshiva God, right? So tell us more from Yeshiva God.
I have PYSD,
What is that?
post yeshiva stress disorder.
Oh, that is such a good term.
I coined it.
Should trademark it.
You can do research on it.
For my doctorate.
Yeah.
Oh, I have to share that.
Let's collaborate. From Yeshiva God perspective or place or position to Gershon, why don't you speak, God, Yeshiva God? Talk more to Gershon. Don't hold back. He's finally listening. And you see how I'm being theatrical, right?
So I'm God talking to Gershon?
Yes,
Yeshiva
you are
God.
Yeshiva God. It's a very special version of God, one might say.
Nothing punishing.
Yeah, so start. Be that God.
You're not doing enough. You're not doing it right. You're not doing it perfect. You're not doing it the way the Medactic people do it. You're not davening. You're not davening, saying it right. You're not asking right. So all of the nuances of things that absolutely drive me crazy. So
And may I double?
you may double.
Okay. And Gershon, even when you do get it right, it never lasts, by the way. Do you notice? It never lasts. Keep going if it feels right.
It never lasts. It's only as good as the win.
Keep telling more.
You're not as good as the other people. The other people that seem to only have one thing in mind. They just dive, they live in yeshiva, and then basically sold their souls to do this thing, and that wasn't okay.
No, they sold their souls to me. I'm proud of them.
Right.
Read it if it's right, change it if it's different.
No, you're right. Very good.
That's up to me.
Sold
Tell them.
their soul to me. I'm not selling my soul.
You're not
You're
selling
not
yours.
selling your soul. No, you're not doing what I want you to do. So,
May I double?
a
Low key shame on you, by the way. Shame on you.
lot of shame.
Yeah.
Shame on you. You're not doing it. You're not doing what I need you to do. You're not doing what we tell you. You're not giving enough money. Get money, you should give it. Anybody familiar with that one? Right? You only gave more. You only gave more to yeshiva, then God would give you what you want.
Okay, may I double?
Yeah.
You are not enough. You will probably never be enough.
Hey, that one is not.
So
That's,
go
so I got a good
Make
one.
it through this. Own words, own words.
I don't think you'll ever be enough religiously, but I think you'll. Yeah, I'm kind of lost with that. You're never going to mount up religiously. You're never gonna get what you want because you're not doing what I want. You're not doing what you're being told. You're not acting. You're not dressing. You're not looking. You're not respecting. You're not asking shilas all the time. You ask shilas all the time. That's what people do. They just ask shilas all the time.
So now stand up.
Anybody related to this besides me?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Stand up. And reverse roles. And by the way, at the end, at the sharing part, we're going to ask more people to share how they relate. Right? That's and especially in a group. And when it's individual sessions, we ask you to look back at the scene and see what reflect. But for now, right, God is in the room, and we know this is a yeshiva God. So I'm now going to ask Gershon, just what was it like, right? Being on the receiving end of all of that. Because when you're reversing roles, you're in it and you're hearing it at the same time. You're seeing it and you're hearing it. Yeah, tell this God what it was like to hear all of this.
To hear the stuff from God,
Yeah, to hear it from Yeshiva God.
I hate you. I despise you. I don't want to be part of it. I don't like you.
Yeah.
I feel good about you. Don't want a relationship. You want? You want a doll?
I'm gonna now ask you to pick someone in the room to play you for a moment as a placeholder. This is, right, incorporating groups. In groups, we use the room. We use.
No, who's?
Not that you pick anyone, gender doesn't matter. Like, just pick someone to be a placeholder because we're gonna freeze the scene and I want you to see it from the outside. That's Kelly. It makes sense that you knew, right? So, and usually you would ask, like, is it okay to be? Yeah, okay, all right. So go on in. So you are now Gershon as a placeholder, okay? Come on out with me. And we freeze the scene. In psychodrama, individually, couples, groups, we always utilize the option of freezing the scene. And when we freeze the scene, if it's in a group, I'll have someone, right, just like we did now, pick someone. If it's in individual therapy, you have them pick a stuffed animal, a pillow, something to represent you are now my placeholder, and we freeze it. Nothing's happening. And I want Gershon now to come out, look at himself, right? This is you. This is the yeshiva God who just gave you a whole load of stuff, and that's the original God that is kind of there. What's going on? What are you noticing?
Yeah, I don't want that guy.
Okay. Well, why don't you move it to where you want it to be, like where it feels from this place? Yeah. Okay. Feels. Yeah.
I don't want anything to do with it.
Okay. What about that big chair over there?
That one I like.
You really like?
I like God.
Sounds like there's more room to explore that one.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And what do you want to say to Gershon? Because right to you, like in the scene, in this place.
Be yourself. Bring your own religion. Do what you think God wants you to do, not what other people think He wants you to do. Nobody knows God any better than you do. The same God that created the holiest imam, the holiest rabbi, created the lowliest wine on the journey. We all have access. Just remember, we all have access.
And do you see the wisdom? What just happened now, we watched brain wiring change. We actively all watched it with our eyes. I mean, this amazes me every time about psychodrama. I march out of these.
Not just me.
It's not just you. What happened now is you accessed your wisdom via new brain highways. Which is, I mean, it's always been there. You really just remembered it, but it's new brain waves, new brain connections. When I finish these workshops, usually I'm out there marching. I call a friend, I'm like, I love my work, because this is what we see. We see magic happening in front of our own eyes. Now, since you've watched the scene, you've made a little adjustment, which, by the way, if this were an in-depth session, that too, and if this was an in-depth session, out the window, I have to, yes.
My car's underneath the window, so
Oh,
that's all I
right.
need from God to be more angry.
Right? And this
Karma.
too, if this was more an in-depth session just with Gershon, what we might also do is understand who are the people that created that God. We might call in those people on an empty chair, or on, if it's a group, call in the people, and say things to the rabbi, to the yeshiva, to whoever it was, that you couldn't say back then, that you could bitch about to your friends, but you could never say to them. And say it. First it'll come through anger, and then it'll go to grief, and then it'll land at sadness. And that's where we sit. And then that God is relegated to, we give it back. Meaning you would have the people sitting here, and you would give them back this God and say, this isn't mine. This is yours. Have fun. In the interest of time, I'm saying it rather than doing it, but this is kind of, as I'm saying it, you can envision. Your brain is still firing. So now, we'll thank you. I didn't get Shani. We'll thank Shani for playing you for a moment. You can sit down and go back in. So now, with this renewed sense, we've seen what God isn't. Why don't we give it a shot and see if anything new comes when you sit down with your real God now? You sit
I
down
said,
here.
so I'm God or?
You're gonna reverse roles from Gershon to God,
Okay, so I'm God?
not the yeshiva God.
No.
So what does this God want to say to Gershon?
I love you.
Oh.
You're okay. Do the best you can. I love you whether you fail or whether you don't. I love you whether you keep mitzvahs or whether you don't. I don't love you any more or any less than anybody else. And nobody ever finds God. The mitzvahs to seek. Stay away from people who find God. It's not such a good thing. Nobody can find it. They can seek. So keep on seeking. And declaring will come. That's it.
Now, remember Gershon's original question. You have to always talk to you. Do you see me? What does this God have to say to that question? That was a very profound question.
This God sees you.
I see.
Oh, I see you. I see you. Sometimes I'm disappointed. Other times I'm not. But I always see you.
Can I double?
Sure.
The double was here. What?
What?
Double was here and it left. Okay, it'll come back when it's close. But sometimes that'll happen. You'll have an intuition. It feels so clear, and then it flies away. So we trust that.
Just keep on seeking. Someday will be clear. Clarity might not come until the transition over the other place. At some point, you'll get an idea of why it all had to be the way it is. But that's not for you to know right now.
What a different energy we get from this God.
Yeah,
Reverse.
I like this guy.
Reverse roles.
Get up, down. You almost have to get off that list.
No.
Okay.
Any last words you want to say to this God?
Which one is this? The God I like or the
Yeah, the God that you like. The other one is kicked out. Me.
I wish that I could not feel such resentment towards the other God. I had one prayer, help me not to feel that resentment, because I do. I don't want to be resentful.
And you can make a command or a request from this God. You can say, please, I request that resentment be lightened. You can make it.
I would love you to help me to lower the resentment that I have towards the God that I was taught.
Okay, reverse roles, because you made a request, you may as well grant it. We're here anyway. Say, go out of your head and into God's place.
So what God's telling me is the work's not mine, it's yours. You gotta, you don't want to be resentful. You gotta practice it. You gotta judge people kindly. You gotta. The way I'm thinking now is pray for patience. Right? I don't make you patient. I put people in your life that help you practice patience. You don't want to be resentful. You don't want to be angry. I'm helping you put people in your life that are doing that. So these people are here to help you practice being not judgmental.
May I double? Emulate me. Emulate me. Am I judgmental?
That one didn't resonate. That's too tall.
Okay, yeah, so switch it up. Remember, we don't fail because we aim too high. We fail because we aim too low and we hit. So, and if it's too tall in order but something you can envision, go for it. It's up to you though.
I'd like to get halfway there. Try and get halfway.
That's where you'll go.
If I get halfway to God, I think I'll be all right.
So tell from God, say, get halfway.
Get halfway.
All right.
That's a good thing. Get halfway and then talk. Get halfway and then call me again.
Okay. Reverse roles.
Hey, this is a lot of work.
This is it though. Close it out any way you'd like with God. Real God.
I'm visiting with you. I'd like to come back again.
And for me, it's like you can do this anytime. I do it all the time. I hang out with God like this. It's fun.
Me too.
Yes. Amazing. So you can have a seat back if you're ready. And what we do also is we de-roll, right? We de-roll the chair. We say this chair is not God. You, if you were in a group, you would say I'm not Gershon.
That's a really fun.
So we We have 45 minutes, and I want to do the 3 cheers as well in a moment, but before we do that, questions? All right. Yes, I want to take a couple of questions.
Well, I, as a practitioner, would want to help him when he's picking up a bad guy to, and I'm wondering, he's really not angry at God. He's projecting his anger at all the people. And I want to get to the people who are upsetting him. I want to get to the good chairs. That's really what I was thinking I was going to do.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is just like an introduction for.
Yeah, as you remember in the middle when I mentioned to him that we would ask who created this God, that's when we call in either other chairs or pillows or stuffed animals if it's individual, or in a group we call in other people. And I want him to talk to those people and ask them questions. Sometimes we'll do a role reversal. Reverse roles with Rosh Yeshiva, reverse roles with Rabbi so-and-so, exactly.
Or the kid who's competing.
Right? Reverse roles and talk it out. But the talking out is not for resolution. You're not here mediating. You're getting him moving along in his feelings.
Right.
Until it feels like there's a resolution within. Peace, inner peace. That's what we're going for. And here, just for the sake of demonstration, for the sake of time, we kept it short, but that's definitely where we would go.
That could take sessions and sessions.
Yeah.
Especially people who come in.
It could. Usually psychodrama sessions individually for people who want it, it's usually an hour and a half. Groups are 2.5 hours. So we tend to get a lot done in a single session, especially someone who knows psychodrama. I have clients at this point who come in and say, okay, this is who's here today. And yeah, we start going right away. And for, other times it's an introduction. But yeah, that's definitely an avenue. Anyone else? Something happened.
Something is happening because somebody has a birthday. And she is very modest, but we all thank Tamar for all of her hard work, and I am clearly kind of challenged in my wrapping paper. So first we have flowers. You should continue to blossom throughout the year. We have a card. And we have, it's a lovely baking dish that you should continue to make delicious food that you enjoy. And we won't embarrass you too much. And we have a cake which you have to cut. It's carved. So I would like to thank you first of all, for putting up with me as your boss, and for giving us all your patience and understanding.
I suppose it has to happen in the middle because
That's right. And I specialize in embarrassing. And anybody who would like to see this? No, it's carved on purpose because I know there's always issues if I buy anything Halabi unless I warn you, which I did not do. It's a parv, and enjoy it. It's badats. Everybody should enjoy a mousse cake, which Tamar is going to give out because that's what the birthday girl does, and much better. Thank you.
Of course. You do what you gotta do. It's your
Yes.
choice. So while we're having a little bit of cake, a few more minutes, we're gonna spend 10 more minutes on question answer before we do the final demonstration. So yes.
In the mindfulness exercise you began, why was compassion pink? What was, because everything else was very symbolic and archetypal. That was interesting.
When I meditate, every time when I go up in that way, it is pink. Sometimes it's bright pink, light pink, and what I train in that modality as well, theta healing and energy work. That is something that keeps coming up as a recurring theme for a lot of people. So if you search online theta meditation, like a guided meditation to take you there, usually you'll hear a mentioning of pink. And then there's also just color symbolism. Like if you want to look into that, red symbolizes one thing, yellow, pink, green, like different things do have different symbolic.
Within the Jewish tradition, compassion is green.
Because green is the heart chakra, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
That is interesting. Yeah. But that is really, it's more a visualization. When you're doing that eventually, if you do it again and again, I do it at this point pretty much daily, sometimes more than once a day, you'll know your journey. Like you'll know how to get to where you need to get, whatever colors you need to see. Sometimes it's just a feeling, but yeah, good question.
I think of green as healing,
And when I do visualization, I'll often do with light blue or purple, also as in terms of a healing light, which people really relate to. And actually, I've noticed that people will say, like for example, if we're doing meditation, and all of a sudden it will come up like, my leg hurts through whatever works. So I'll say, okay, let's just try to breathe some blue healing light. And it's amazing. Then they'll say, hey, you know, I feel better.
Yeah.
A lot of it just being an emotional response that the body is telling us, and it's really incredibly helpful.
From a meditative or theta brainwave, we have tremendous healing powers.
It's incredibly healing, and they'll feel better.
Yes.
Just sit with them.
Even physical ailments,
Yes.
exactly like you said. Light blue also symbolizes the ability to speak.
Right. Opening
The
up, they'll
throat,
say.
saying, I can say what I need to say, I can express myself. And then purple is the crown, the immediate channel, right? The connection between me and what's outside. Any other questions about the technique? Yes?
Fascinating. My question is, obviously, this is something that you would want to do, take wherever the client goes with you, and you have that open door and you have them open. How do you personally end a session with an individual when you realize the time is coming up? Like how soon,
Great
like
question.
what is your time frame? You say you give 5 minutes before and you realize that's the time you start processing. How do you process it?
Such a good question.
Yeah,
There
great
you go.
question. Yes,
That I
framing.
struggle with a lot.
Yeah.
What's going on with
So as you see that, I know my limitations as a person. Time to me and the law of time, we're still having to figure it out. I don't, when we're very spiritual beings outside, before we come here in the flesh, there's no time. There is no time. You just be. And then you come here, we choose to come here to earth, in a human body, there is time, and it's like, excuse me. So I know that as a limitation, especially when it comes to this kind of work. It's very immersive. You see, we could have gone for an hour, too. Like, this is very, right, it's very immersive. So for myself, if you know that you have a limitation when it comes to dealing with time, right? Set yourself a reminder like that. And my clients all know, even my little Kindle, who right now, a lot of them are upstate in New York, and I work with some of them on Zoom, they'll ask, Bruchy, is your phone, is the reminder turned on? Did you turn it on? Will I hear it? And we have a different system. Like I'll wave something when it's 10 minutes before for a child. For adults, I will tell them, as you know, this kind of process is immersive. We do go into different brain waves. So I'll tell them it might be jarring when we're gonna hear a reminder, but it's in the interest of making sure that we close when you are closed up, when you're closed back, not when you're still raw and open. So for a psychodrama session, usually I like for this to be 20 minutes before the session is up. So if you only have 45 minutes in the session, you're not doing too much. She is.
You're
Next
in practice.
the next one is going to come when we have 20 minutes left, which isn't 20 minutes. When you're doing mini interventions, like a 5-minute empty chair, then it's fine. You leave processing for 7 to 10 minutes.
Why would you do 5 minutes though? I mean,
Sometimes it's a quick thing. Like if someone's going on and on about whoever, I'll say, well, why did you, instead of telling me, tell her, tell him, go, right?
Okay.
So that it's quick. But if you see it's going to go deeper, we do have to keep that frame in mind and say, look, it's going to be jarring when we have to come out of it, but we're going to have a reminder. And pick a reminder this one is a very jarring one, but there are lighter ones, there are smoother ones. You can make a custom ringtone that really is gentle to kind of indicate we're going to start wrapping up. And what we do then is we don't just close, we say, now that we're coming to the end, is there anything else that needs to be said? Is there anything else that needs to be heard? Is there anything else that needs to come out right now? And then we utilize it. So I might tell Gershon, let's say, to tell God what we're going to talk about the next time we meet. Or if we're working with, let's say, the Rosh Hashiva and everything, he might even feel energized to say, like, you've kept me waiting for so long, I'm going to keep you waiting for the next part of this, So thank you. Right? So meaning we can utilize the feelings that are there to then close it out and then just say, this is where we're going to, start off next time. here's where we trust in the ability for humans to ebb and flow as needed when we create the right space, the right environment. So yeah, there is that jarring moment. And in a group, at this point, I mean, I have a flow. I know when it's time to wrap up. The clients know if they're in a cohesive group for a while. But yeah, set and setting the frame is very important because you are literally taking a client different states.
What happens if trauma comes up?
It always does.
Yeah. And that's like the person's already losing himself or crying.
Yeah. And you're saying if trauma comes up when we're at the end?
Yeah.
So that is, who knows about doorknobbing?
Yeah, sure, at the end.
Right, you know what
Doorknob
doorknobbing is?
disclosure.
Right, oh, by the way, that's the age my father.
Yes.
Yeah, and in those moments, I still, again, barring an emergency, I can count on my fingers where I've had to end a session with a person going, usually in a clinic setting, going to an emergency room. That has happened, not because of psychodrama, but because something comes up. Usually though, that is if it's a doorknobbing thing where it comes up. Doorknobbing is when a person will disclose something really big when their hand is on the door.
And they're leaving on the way.
Yes.
Oh, by the way.
By the way. Whatever, imagine the big
Something, and
explosion.
because they know they're running out, so it's like, I can just run out. It's something usually very embarrassing to them and shameful that they
It's embarrassing if it's a person also on the borderline,
Yeah.
in the borderline cloud, right? In that beautiful landscape. It might also be as a way to,
Grab you back.
grab you back or keep you thinking about them.
Into the session.
Lengthen the session, to play with boundaries.
Testing also.
Yes. Testing limits, testing compassion, testing your boundaries. So that is, we play with that, and that is a time where we teach a client to regulate. Because in the psychodrama session is not the only time that they're gonna be faced with a trauma onslaught when they're doing this work. So to say, something really big is coming up, I see your inner child emerging, I see this trauma emerging, and we can let's look at it for a moment, and the client is heaving, crying, and then to say, and at the same time, we really respect the boundary of time here. That's what keeps you safe. That's what keeps you safe to even process this. So here's where we're going to practice self-regulation. Yeah. And then we do a quick one of telling, let's say it's the inner child that's coming up. Pick a stuffed animal, tell her you'll be back. If it's a client that's been doing this work for a while, I will also give them homework, what they have to do that night. Write a letter to your inner child, write a letter from her to you, sit down, meditate with your inner child, talk to her, yes, talk to that part. IFS, I use a lot of IFS.
Have to bring it back next time, the letter they write?
No, sometimes they'll bring it, sometimes I'll just reflect what was it like to write a letter or not to. Very often, I would say 70% of times.
IFS says that when you start to reach a part of you, you need to keep in contact with it in order to integrate it.
Yeah.
And that's what they should do between sessions.
Yes.
Otherwise, otherwise it doesn't get integrated inside of them. So that's very important if you decide to do any kind of
Just
practice.
by themselves.
By themselves, they do talk to it, hang out with it.
That's one of the
But
most,
they bring it back for more processing because.
Well, they might.
you have to.
You have to, but you can say,
You're
like,
the
one of
clinician.
my clients planted her inner child in a flower pot and watered it. I said, you go out and talk to the flowers. Yeah, I did. It was so much fun. Oh, oops, I better go out and water it again. Like, because that.
Yes, it becomes, that's one of the beautiful things about IFS, and we could do a whole specific workshop on IFS and psychodrama,
Yes.
because we do embodied IFS, like in action, so that's a little bit, very, very cool. But the beauty of IFS, it's one of those techniques that wants clients to be able to do this on their own eventually. It's not a modality that keeps a client attached to a therapist for years and years, of course, as long as they need it, but then live your life knowing how to know your parts. It's a very masterful, like inner peace type of feeling, and you can go out in the world that way. Yes,
If I'm allowed to ask another
yes,
one.
of course.
Is there ever a time where you will stop somebody during the role reversal because you feel that they're saying something either inappropriate or going someplace where you don't want them to go? In terms of, like, for example, when Gershwin's playing God, so
Yeah.
if he's as God saying something not right, for example, I mean, the thought that I have in my mind is you have somebody who's an abuse victim who's speaking to their abuser, and when they role reverse to the abuse victim, to the abuser is blaming them.
That
The
will
victim.
always happen.
That's kind of for sure.
And you will allow that to proceed as
Yes, let it become really big. And then when we freeze the scene, I mean, we could go so many ways with it, but usually when we freeze a scene and bring a person out and have them hear what the abuser is saying, they will start.
It
You
gives
don't
them
get
a
to talk
chance
to
for
me
their
like that.
voice.
What would they
didn't
say
have.
wrong with God?
God can
No, I'm
handle
just-
anything.
No, I mean, as God. They're saying like, let's say beat the person up more. That's what I was saying, as God.
But you saw what
What was
happened
I-
here. The first
Yes.
God that Gershon met beat him up. You
Because
don't talk
that's
to me
their
enough.
view.
Right.
So instead of, I mean, I let it go for a little bit, and then just ask the curious question: which God is that? Like, but I personally didn't recognize that God. Like, my upbringing was different, fun, interesting, and I broke away. Like, I found my God at 14 through breast love. I was like, that's a cool God that strums the guitar, vibes with me, right? So to me, that was like an interesting God. So when we have that, that's the use of self and countertransference. And something is like, I'm curious. Tell me about this God. Who is this? Like, introduce me. This is really fascinating. And then he knew right away, oh, this is the yeshiva God. Oh. And then you see what we did with it. Right? Or if a God, whatever, being played says, whatever it is, we want to get curious. Or with abuse, absolutely, it will happen. In psychodrama, there's 3 rules. You can't hurt yourself, you can't hurt me, you can't damage property. What you say, what you need to get out, say it. That's it, you're safe. Have at it. Takes courage.
I think it's almost better. I mean, people start losing, that's where it all is. I mean, that's where all the anger and all the stuff, usually self-harm that people
Yeah.
do is anger turned inward. They can
Yes.
start to get it out. It's really helpful.
Yeah,
Scary sometimes for therapists to try
absolutely.
and contain it,
Absolutely. This kind of work, if you're doing it a lot, it requires a cohesive network, to be in your own psychodrama groups, to work with people who are doing this a lot, because it takes courage. I mean, we're seeing the deepest parts enacted, not just talked about, acted. It's a lot. Yes?
What do you do with a couple? How do you do the psychodrama with a couple?
Oh, psychodrama with a couple is so fun. So I'll give a few demonstrations quickly. I've always, when I do these workshops, it's always like time flies. With a couple, one of the things you can do right away is role reversal. So I'm going to take the mini chairs for a second. This is not the issue. Let me move this beautiful gift. I'm going to put it on that table. Is that okay? Amazing. Okay. So we have a couple. One thing that I want you to know, when I have a couple in my office, they never face me.
Now they face each other.
Always face each other. Is anyone here familiar with packed couples therapy by Stan Tatkin? Okay, fantastic modality. Look into it.
So they always look at each other.
Always.
Always turn around.
If they're facing me, I am now a mediator. Yeah, sorry, that is not what I do. I'm a couples therapist, right? So
You
when
have
I'm
them talk to each other?
always.
Okay, it's funny, because I do exactly the opposite.
Will you have them talk?
I haven't talked to, I don't let them talk to each other when there's like
Really?
23 hours. You can talk to each other. For me, in this hour, you can talk to you, because I think you become a curious observer of each other. Now, again, it's different modalities, but I
Look
find
into packed.
uh,
What modality do you use?
yeah, just
this and that.
just this and that mostly, but a lot of Sue Johnson,
Okay.
a lot, but just I just find it more helpful because when they start talking to each other, they're ready listening, so they can answer back. And when they're
So-
talking to me now, I'd like to hear how you handle that.
Yes. So with the packed psychodrama stuff, look it up because you're going to find a wealth of information. Today I'm just going to show a couple.
Okay.
So when I have a couple sitting here, let's have 2 people who volunteer. Thank you. Come both of you. Go. Yes.
I'm going to bring this chair.
Oh yes,
Going
that
down.
is a good idea, actually, yes. So we're gonna make you all sit on these itty bitty chairs. Yes. Okay, you're looking at each other. And I will be sitting, whether here or where, I'm sitting, and have an argument, have a spontaneous argument. Go.
You spend money on that? Really?
And you want me to respect your decision? Fire it up more.
Do you know how much money we owe, and that's what you spent money on, and that's how you throw it back at me? Zero responsibility? Zero?
I hear you're really frustrated.
You're fighting.
That was fighting, by the way.
What'd you say?
That was fighting.
Oh, that was
Very
very
frustrating.
passive aggressive. Try again.
Yeah.
Just
But
for us.
one of the first things, and this is, maybe we could call it psychodrama, this is more borrowed from PACT. That's one of the things I'm training in now, but I'm gonna pause and ask him to look at her face and tell me, what is her face telling me right now?
Yeah, because I don't see your face.
This is weird.
Yeah,
This is very weird.
weirdum.
But,
Uncomfortableness.
yes, that's the point. Go with it a little bit. We are tolerating discomfort more and more. Brains firing. Delicious.
Am I supposed to be seeing my husband and he's supposed to be seeing his wife?
Or whatever.
That's what you're looking
Yeah, I mean, see, you're in the process. Whatever needs to happen will happen. But
So meaning, what are you really asking?
right now, I want him to look at your face, tell me, and be in the argument. What is her face telling you? Yeah, if her face could talk, what is her face saying?
I want out.
Okay.
I want this conversation to end right now.
And why don't you check in with her? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Are you trying to tell me to shut up?
Yeah, that's exactly what it
See, all she wants me to do is shut up.
Well, you are really good at reading her. You got that really right.
is. Yeah, you got it.
That's not the point. We're wasting our money.
Wow. I
Don't
love this
distract
one.
me.
I love this one. I'm going to respond to all of it in training. What is his face telling you?
Ooh, you're angry.
And water's wet.
It's all my fault. You're right and I'm wrong.
Is that what? Check in with him if that's what his face is
Yeah,
telling you.
you just want me to say I'm right.
I don't
I'm
want
wrong.
you to
It's all
say it.
my
I want
fault.
things fixed.
Yes, I should do it your way. Yeah, just do it your way. And then and that's called fixed. According to you.
Oh.
According to your MS.
His brain went offline right now.
Oh, okay.
Okay? So now, this part, did anyone else watching see his brain
It's
go?
gone. Where'd it go?
Okay? So what I teach couples, first and foremost, before even any psychodrama, and this is something that always comes at me, we're wasting our money, why am I looking at her face, why am I looking at his face? I don't want you here forever. I want the two of you to become experts on each other's nitty-gritty. Who here has a pet? Yeah, a dog?
Bird.
Bird?
A plane.
Right?
My bird actually is really sensitive to people's emotions. It's pretty amazing.
Who's that? Your
My bird.
bird. Yeah, I mean, they're pretty interesting.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Birds. He's very interesting.
Kids, I have a dog, right? He senses me. I can also sense the tiniest little thing. If his tail is wagging like this, or if his tail is wagging like that, it's a different thing. If he's panting this way or that way, it's a different thing. And then you have some people who are called dog whisperers, right? They get to make dogs do.
Right.
What is it? They're just very attuned
To the what's
to
the
the
dog.
tiniest. You want to become your wife whisperer. She wants to become a husband whisperer. You want to be such good experts at each other. She is supposed to know a minute before you're going to go offline. And then she's supposed to stop and say, oh, wow, we're going to get nothing done. Because when you're offline,
Nothing happens.
you go hyper for a moment, and then you go offline. And then both people are just repeating words, robots. You're not here, nothing gets done. So we spend a lot of time in couple sessions learning each other. So that's one thing, okay? Another thing in psychodrama, we don't have a ball here, but I'll have the couple throw a soft, like a little mini foam ball at each other while the conversation is happening, okay? And that's a regulation technique.
But they throw the ball really hard.
And then I wonder about that.
Give me a bowling ball.
Soft ballers.
But I don't even say soft or not. I say, wow, ooh, I become an audience member. Oh, wow, yeah, I'm gonna move out of the way, right? And then I might pause and say, in psychodrama, we always say, if Dash could talk, what would it say? If your tears could talk, what would it say? A client says, can I have a hug? If you're not comfortable with physical contact and hugging, say, if we did hug, what would that hug say? What do you need to hear, right? So we give voices to things that don't have voices. If they're throwing the ball really hard, I say, well, if that ball could talk, what would it say? Right? And then we're engaging, we're moving. Now with psychodrama also, right, you're arguing. I would say, all right, everyone, I've heard enough. You've had this argument a million times at home. Why don't we do something different? Stand up. And stay where you are, reverse roles. Reverse roles.
Oh, reverse walls also means reverse chairs.
No, it is. Yeah, just you can sit down. Sit down. And in this case, you are now, remind me your name with a Y?
Yisrael.
Yisrael, and you are now tomorrow? Tomorrow. Right? Yisrael, tomorrow, and I would have them have the argument again. Because one of the things in this kind of couples therapy, you have to be so good at arguing your partner's side of the argument. You have to be so skilled that when you are called upon it, you can do it. So here, again, we didn't have a good, like, necessarily a big argument that the two of you were having, but go with it just for the demonstration. You are now Yisrael, you are now Tamara, argue.
I'm very confident, you're very wrong, and I'm very right. And it's all your fault, and we have to do it my way. I think we're done. We can go home now, or we can go out to eat. Are we done?
Maybe
You want to
tomorrow.
say more. You want to say more. You really want to say more. I sort of want to hear what you have to say, but I sort of don't.
Now you see, Yisrael is having a hard time getting into the role of tomorrow, but I would
No, I know
forget,
what I want to say.
but tomorrow wouldn't pause.
Right.
Right? So you're
Yes.
having a hard time getting in the role. So what I would do is I would pretend that you're tomorrow and I would say, all right, let's warm you, that's our 20-minute reminder, let's warm you up, and it's gonna ring again in 9 minutes. Let's warm you up with some questions. So I'm gonna say, you're tomorrow. How old are you? And you have to answer as tomorrow, right? Where do you go to school? How many siblings do you have? What's something you did this weekend? You have to answer as tomorrow, and then I say, now have the argument, right? This is kind of getting him into the role, which is very important in psychodrama, right? And then I would say, stand up. And what happens next is you can either reverse roles back, you can have them both come out of the scene and observe, right? Say, come out, right? And do it with me, come out. And now the scene is frozen, right? So now you invite the couple to discuss. Imagine they're clinical researchers, right? Discuss what's happening in the scene. Because the fight is frozen, we're coming back to the fight. Don't worry about it. We're coming back. Discuss amongst yourselves. And just for the demonstration, talk for a minute or two about this couple fighting here. You're not wearing white coats, you're researchers. You're talking about this couple. What do you want to say about them to each other?
You must think this guy's a real jackass.
Talk to each other.
Are you and she's?
Yeah, now they're saying, as you do it more, you get into it, but now you're both your own selves. And you see what happens in this state, there's lightness, it opens some humor, right? Like he made a humorous comment a little bit, right? It just, because the fight is here. We're coming back in a second, but be researchers for a second, right? Take on the role of just watching this couple. It's so fascinating. Yeah, you'll make comments
No,
about
it
yourselves.
was that was purposely done back. You must think that this person in this that was done in a.
But it's a
Yes.
use of humor.
It was a use of humor, but it's saying, I care about what you think
Yeah.
about this guy.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
and that's what the therapist can build on.
Everything that comes up here is buildable. It's just, and the couple's now in a different place. They're talking amongst each other about what's going on. That's a very
So they're working
beautiful
together
skill.
as a team.
Yeah, even if just for a second, it's opening the wiring in the brain that says, oh, you know how
Well,
to do
it's
this.
taking them out of each other as well, which I
Yes.
think is giving them perspective on.
So it works on so many levels, right? So now take your chairs, D-roll, I am not.
Can I say something that's exactly
I'm not married to
the
it.
opposite,
Yes.
the opposite of the way I work. which
Sure,
is-
let me hear.
No, and I don't know if I'm right or wrong, it's just, because I like what you're doing here,
Yeah.
but it's something I don't naturally do, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
something I think would be kind of cool if I could figure out how to work it in, but
Okay.
I usually look at my couples, because what I find is I get couples and I say, well, so why did you do that? Well, I thought my husband did it, I thought my wife, and you'll see, very quickly, it's like, you guys do a lot of thinking for each other, and rarely are you right. And you base whatever you think your spouse is thinking, and you take an action, and then it's wrong, and then you get into these huge fights.
Yeah.
Why don't you just ask? Like, I'm a big exact opposite of trying to read. I'm just saying, you know the best way to find out what your spouse is thinking? You go, what are you thinking?
Yeah.
Now, you got to get an honest answer, because if you ask your wife and you say, are you angry at me? She says, fine. Then that's the answer, and you can't come back 5 minutes later and go, well, you should have known I wasn't fine.
Yeah,
So,
look,
you know-
so it's interesting, look into PAC, you'll see a lot.
I'm not saying that you're wrong. It's
Yeah,
just,
yeah,
like
it's different,
completely-
it's different.
It's very different. than
Because some
the-
of what you're saying actually is done in PACT couples therapy. So let's say going down the middle, when the couples, for me, always they're looking at each other, but making a comment like, oh, you agree? And look, I'm looking at no one. I'm looking not at you, not at you. I'm looking at the center because I tell a couple always there's three of you in the room. There's you, and then there's your relationship. So sometimes I will just look at your relationship. It's also in the room, and I'll say, wow, two of you really do a lot of thinking for each other. I'll just say that. And you decide what to do with it. Right? Again, one of my biggest goals always with clients is we do what we need to do and then we get you off the couch and then you know what to do back home. When you ask your wife, how are you feeling? And she says, fine. You want to read the eye flutter, the nostrils flaring, her shoulders, and then you want to know, ooh, this person is in my care for life. I woke up this morning choosing to stay with this person. It's a choice. It's a choice. So if this person is having to lie to me, hey, what's up with me? We go even deeper. What's up with me? Why did my wife have to lie? Because I see her body is saying no, but she's saying fine. Then it's on him to say, what's going on? But it's also on her to pause and say, wow, I just lied to you. Wait, what's going on with me? I know I could tell you that I'm not doing fine. Right? The responsibilities on both at the same time.
Right, okay.
Always deeper, always deeper. But yeah, I mean, many different modalities. I'm biased to this one, but yeah,
It's
good stuff.
What do you do when there's one party, let's say the woman is flooded and she can't talk? She's heard from all the many years of quote unquote abuse or not being seen or neglected. And how do you work with that in the psychodrama, like role play?
There's a lot of context plays a role. If she's flooded because of a betrayal, there's a very specific way that I work with betrayal.
Her life will never change in this.
Yeah, the ongoing.
At some point, I mean, we do bring it to a point of
Just can't
saying,
do it.
okay, if you can't do it, so when are you out? Like what keeps you in? No, are you out?
Are you out? What does that mean?
Are you
Are
out
you done?
married?
Are you done?
You're done.
If someone says I can't do it anymore, I take that very seriously. Wow, yeah, I have to honor a person's decision. But if a person uses that as a way to hook or as a way to stay in, then I say, okay, I'm not sure how to use that here.
Perhaps I misunderstood the question. You're saying she says that, or you're
No.
just you're gauging
No,
that from the fact that she
does.
just can't.
She looks down in the dumps. She doesn't answer the
Yeah,
question.
she's lost
Then
her voice.
I turn to the husband then. What's going on with her? Tell me. She's always like this.
She's I'm most to blame.
And I would ask him, so why do you think she's like this? Like,
Yeah,
what do you
that
think's
was
going
kind of
on?
like, yeah.
It's like, yeah.
It's
Because
also a lot about why are they in the room? What brings you here?
Right.
What, meaning, I want to know, are they working on anything in particular? Are they, because if she's wanting to be that way and it's working for him, and it's working, like it's usually so layered. If a couple is remaining stagnant, it works for both.
Yes.
Stagnation works for both.
Well, is that one of the questions? How does that work for you? It's something that often people haven't thought about.
no,
Why are they in the office?
They're-
Like, what brings
they're
you?
trying to work on their relationship.
So what does
but
that
there's, they're both so triggered
Mhm.
that you can't get any movement. When two people are triggered, it takes one person at least to be a little bit above to help move the therapy along. But when both of them are so triggered by each other's
So in the room with a couple like that, one of the skills that I would do is using self-regulation and other regulation. We would spend entire sessions just on that.
You'd split them
And
up?
then when they say, what was that?
Would you split them up, or, I
No.
mean, no, you.
I only work with couples together.
What
I
are some of
never.
the self-regulation techniques?
So self-regulation is basics like breathing, hand on heart, hand on belly, visualization, closing my eyes, taking a break for a minute and coming back in, drinking a glass of water in 9 sips, right? Things like that. There's many, but then,
Now that's just an example of out of regulation.
so yeah, so that's all self-regulation. Other regulation, I want to have the couple look at each other and avert their gaze and then look back. I want to have a couple hands, right, touch skin to skin. I want to have a couple, right, hand, right, like you do hand on your own heart, hand on the other person's heart. I want to see them close. I can't look at him. Fine, hold hands. I can't hold his hand. Well, you're in a coupleship. You have to learn those techniques. Sorry. Who woke up this morning deciding to be in this couple? Not me. 2 of you did. well, then you're here to learn. Right? So now, then a couple, at the second session that you do this, the couple will say, we're wasting our money. And I'll say, yeah, you are. Are you practicing this at home? And then they sheepishly will say no. I'll say, oh, well, it is, and it might end up being a waste of money.
That's 9 minutes.
I'm getting this.
What's the next one?
The next one is
We're
closing.
finished.
Again, today there were a lot more than you would have in a regular session. A regular session, you have.
Sharon, you have a question?
Yeah,
I have one
And
question.
Jonas
Yes.
also has a question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just before the 9 minutes. I don't remember when, like a lot of years ago, I had someone in the room and I tried to do a little bit of that work because she wanted to, I don't know if it was the empty, but sort of like inviting a client in.
Yeah.
But basically what happened was that it was around the Terry Real time when we went
when
there.
we went to
Yeah.
Terry Real,
So I
yeah.
tried, right, and the husband was there, but it was her session, so it wasn't like a couple.
Terry Real is very big on both people.
Yeah, being there, and so it was really, but it was so we invited, like, say, her 8-year-old self,
Yeah.
and she just said to me, I can't stand her, I don't want her in the room, get her out. Yeah, and like, we haven't actually gone back there. I didn't like, and I said, are you, she said, I don't want to talk about it. I'm not ready to talk about it. I hate her. I don't want to see her. Can't stand her. Get her out. I'm scared. I just, it was like everything shut down.
Mm-hmm. So there's two ways. You're asking how I would.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just saying that happened.
Part of her, she just couldn't.
Yeah.
So first, I say, in terms of like helping a client take ownership, I say, I can't tell that to your part. It's not my job. It's your job too.
Mm.
Okay. So first, let them own it. Let them own, even if it's I hate you.
Yeah.
Own it. We're not scared of hate. Own it. You need her out of the room. You take her out of the room.
Yeah.
Right? So that's that. And then there are times when a client is flooded and we need to go to basic trauma first aid. The client's flooded. I can't, having a trauma tantrum. Okay, we remind them of their skills. We teach them their skills. We go into our knowing, all of us as clinicians should know how to use a hypnotic voice. We all need to have that skill. Okay? And then we go back. Well, let's talk about it. Takes courage.
I think sometimes
Takes chutzpah.
when clients get upset, we want to stop, and it's like you got to go
Yeah, I
into it.
can't actually remember. It wasn't a bad. She's
Yeah.
still coming. It was just.
And I use a lot. I mean, at this point, my clients know that I'm very, very, very in tune. I love meditation, and I meditate, and I pause sometimes. And I question that the client does something or asks a question. I might pause and say, "Let me breathe on that for a second," and I really do. I really do. I breathe, and the answer comes. And then what happens also is that I teach the client by doing.
that.
Oh, we pause, we breathe, and then we answer. With children also it happens so quick. With children I will embed these moments even if it's not really there. Even if I have the answer, I might say, that's a really good question, let me think. And then sometimes the client themselves will say, oh, but I know the answer, you don't have to tell me. Boom, amazing, right? Or I teach them the skill of, let me think. I might say, now I'm gonna think from my brain. Oh, now I'm gonna think from my heart. It feels different. We demonstrate, right? So with adults, it's the same thing. It's a little bit different, slightly different intonation, but that's where we're going. Right. Jonas, you had a question?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to frame it properly. When I was watching you outline the couples work, it seemed as though that the psychodrama was taking just straight from behavioral couples therapy, but acting out
Yes.
the behavioral couples therapy.
Yeah.
And so it made me curious about just the general development of psychodrama. Would it be fair to say, like in terms of like the global sort of looking at the modality, that you're using it as a medium to act out other therapeutic philosophies?
All the time.
That would be the develop. That'd be like that'd be the guiding development.
That would be exactly the further
yeah.
development of psychodrama. Psychodrama was originally created by Jacob Moreno. Yeah, and Zerko. Yeah, they were like, the two people who started it, and yes, very, very big deal. And there is psychodrama theory, right? Specific psychodrama theory. But then every clinician who knows this should take this modality and put it into any modality that fits. because one of the basic reasons for why we even use psychodrama is because we're activating different parts of our brain. So if we could use a modality that is research-based and works, plus this modality that is research-based and works and activates different parts of the brain, you're giving your client the bang for their buck. Like you're really enhancing a session beyond.
Yeah. So how often would you use psychodrama?
I use it
session?
I use it in most sessions. This is one of my specialties. People know it. People come for this. But as you're learning, be brave. Do it a little bit more often than you're comfortable. A little bit more often than you're comfortable, and then it starts to become one of the things that you know how to use. And if you're interested in it, read up more on it. Look online at some videos. Some practitioners you see online will be like, ah. Others you'll be like, oh.
So I just want to remind you that Rachel, who's not here, that's her specialty, psychodrama, and maybe she could do like even a follow-up with us, you know, to in terms of how we can utilize it. Those of you who also know we do playback theater. Myself, Bhakti actually is in our troupe, and playback theater is like amazing. I actually wanted to bring it to the team and the women in the fall, and do it to the guys because but it's just an amazing thing that when we play back it to the person who's watching it, one of the most amazing things is how does it work? And you can see the switch in the brain. And when I have been like told my story and I see them play it back, it's always like, wow, that how do you get it? Because it's that connection that happens, which I guess you call the teleconnection. The teleconnection, and it's just amazing. So when we can use it with you throw it into your work,
it's magical.
It's just amazing what happens. Like I can just tap into that skill, and all those certain persons like, wow.
Yes. Our intuition and almost our
intuition
and almost our psychic abilities are woken up. So the last one that I want to leave you with, we won't have time to play it out, but I'm just going to tell you what it is, the famous 3 chairs. So who here knows about the inner child?
No.
Right?
Gosh, we have a lot of review child, chair.
Right? Who here knows about the inner parent? Okay? The inner parent is the introject, okay? When we're growing up, from when we're a tiny baby, we get a little menchie of our mother and our father inside our heart. And if our mother in real life was supportive and kind and loving, and if our father was, you know, pat on the back, you got this, then our little menchies who talk inside, our inner parents, are kind, supportive. Even when we're not there, they're like, you got this, and we can hear it. If, however, our parents were critical, judgmental, as is the story of many people who show up in our offices, then our inner parent menchie is very, very critical, angry, right? And then we have the inner child who, again, depending on what your childhood was like, but if they're coming to therapy, very often the inner child is broken, scared, worried. The inner teenager is a little bit different, right? The inner young adult, but then we have that. And then we have current adult self, right? 8 C's, 5 P's, right? So in session, I will have, if I notice a client, and I introduce this as needed, if I notice a client is very much in self-parent mode, I'll say, okay, we needed 3 chairs.
That's what Terry Reel's work is. It's the same work.
Right?
He talks about the child, the adaptive, what's it called?
The wounded.
The adaptive child and the adult. And the adaptive child is that child who's learned to adapt too young, too young, and they go and that's. And so they think they're okay, but they're really not.
I mean, you're talking about like adapting to, like, let's say an abusive
That's
parent,
what he talks
and you
about.
become,
You go back and
you
forth
become very
between those
compliant, you become
modalities.
compliant, you don't allow yourself to be, okay.
And he talks about in couples work, how we, or any relationship, and how
Where are you?
And where are you and how
And with
important
a couple, you can use 2 rows, and you don't have to use chairs. You could use pillows, right, to represent, and have them dance from place to place. Where I am making this argument from,
Right.
right? And if they're having a hard time, I will ask permission. May I direct? Because it looks like you're speaking from your inner parent.
What is the youngest age that you would use this with?
Really, any age.
I assume you can't use this with a 15-year-old.
Yeah, you
Even as a
can.
15-year-old.
Yeah. Little you, what your parents would say, and you now.
Yeah. I've used it for it with a 10-year-old. This kind of idea, like really little you now, especially a kid, because it helps empower them. You know,
You could
different
use this.
ages. Different
Trust your
ages.
intuition, but this is
A mature 10-year-old. It's really
Do you give
amazing.
trainings? I mean,
I
are
do.
you, yeah, where do you?
Yes.
talk. I'll give you my contact info. A lot of things are coming up. Obviously, with my soon
But I have a
move
4
to-
o'clock client.
Yes, we all do.
Here. We
Yes,
do.
that is the-
We want to thank you so much for coming.
I like it.
And we just have a little free.
Oh, look at that. I also get to be a little